Hello, this is Deborah with Black Education TV. I'm going to be talking about something very, very important to the so-called Black community. At this point, we seem to be aging out of position or aging out of authority. Historically, that was not the case. It didn't matter what our age was. We were still very relevant as we aged. The position of authority was well grounded in place, and those in authority held their positions very well. Today, what we see is a backwards movement into childhood from that age of authority. Now, a lot of what I'm going to focus on in this video is how we have failed to prepare the next generation. That is also something that we have historically done. But it has gotten worse, of course, because we do know that back in the day, we were preparing kings before they entered into their teenage years. Now, of course, back then there was no such thing as teenager. That was something that was established by the Western culture. They wanted to create that in-between stage from childhood to adulthood to, in my opinion, bring about more confusion. We had boy kings back in the day. King Tut was very young. When the Most High called the prophet Shemuel or Samuel, he was very young, 10 years old. And in his mind, he was a child. But the Most High, of course, he said, "Say not to me that I am a child. Do my will." So from that stage, he was being groomed and put into position. A position that most of us today would see belongs to a man. But you see, the Most High operates differently than what we do. We have been so engrafted into Western culture to where we just don't understand how the Most High thinks. This is why he says, "Your thoughts are not my thoughts. Your ways are not my ways." Many of us have been tricked into thinking that, oh, just let your children be children, and life will teach them. Yes, life will teach them. Life will teach them in the wrong direction, though. It is for you as a parent to raise up the children in the way that they should go. Now, I want to say something real quick, even to those of you who do not have children. There is a mandate that has been placed upon us within our communities, and we are not meeting that mandate. There are so many things that are pulling our minds into the wrong directions. We are so distracted by so many things. Now, the cares of this life or things that are happening in this world are very important. We should not ignore these things, but a distraction is something that actually keeps you from forging ahead or doing what it is you must do. It takes a very sharp mind to pay attention to world events and world affairs and still be able to focus on the goal ahead. So, focusing on your goal should be of the utmost importance. Acting and working towards your goal should be of the utmost importance. But what we are doing and what we are seeing is that the goal or the focus has stopped. The vision has ceased because we are focusing on things that do not matter. Now, what should be our goal and focus? Now, there are many layers to this. There's no one thing that we should be focused on. There are many layers, but it all should come together and form one. If you set your affections on things above, then everything that you do in your life, every aspect of your life is going to get you towards that goal. That includes properly raising your children. That includes nurturing your relationships with the children of our people. Or should I say our people? I don't want to confuse children as in youthful children with the children of Israel. We should also be focusing on becoming one with our Father, reuniting with our Father, returning to Torah. See, when we do these things, although there are many layers, it will all come together and form one. When we seek to have right standing with our Father, everything that we have been instructed to do will bring us back to that place of oneness. Again, this has many layers to it. Many layers. But what we see happening, and I'm going to talk about the children now, our young people. Back in the day, although we did see elements of our people not teaching or showing our children what our people went through. We did a lesson where we talked about how a lot of the children that were birthed didn't even know about the parting of the Red Sea and the miracles that the Most High had wrought. Someone dropped the ball. Someone didn't pass along the torch. And so we see that happening today, as many of our people are aging out of authority, aging out of position. The next generation behind them are becoming worse and worse. The Most High is very displeased with how we have taken on the task of preparing the next generation. At some point, He will step in. The Most High is preparing some young people right now for the work ahead. And those of us that are paying attention to these things, that are listening to His voice, we are going to do what it is we have been instructed to do, which is prepare the next generation for the work ahead. There is much work to be done, family, and not what you think it is. You have those in the secular world who may be Christians or whatever religion or no belief at all. They believe that sending their children to college in this system is the best way to prepare them for the future. You are preparing them for a life in the secular world, but there is another world far deeper, far greater, and far more important than the secular world. Our children need the whole package. They need the spirituality along with self-sufficiency. And unfortunately, that is not being taught in the secular world. A lot of our children, those who choose to go to college, they go after a degree, in which sometimes secular education completely separates you from the Father. You get surrounded by people who do not believe in the Father, who do not serve our Father, who do not love our Father or our people. And you begin to take on their ways till none of it matters to you. But what the Most High is trying to get us to do, He wants us to prepare our next generation to be able to fall in line, into position, in positions of authority within our nation of people. That is the task at hand. That is very important. But what I see is that has been put on the back burner. I see the adults doing their thing, doing this, doing that, having things that do not even involve our young people or cultivating their minds or their spirits or their lives. But we're doing things that are for us as adults, forgetting that there is a generation to follow. Now, just like I said before, we should never age out of authority or position. But that is what is happening because most of our people have adapted to Western culture. In our culture, even when Isaac's eyes waxed dim and dimmer, his children knew and understood his position and his authority over them. Even Esau, you see. But today, you have children rising up against parents at a very early age because they do not recognize the position or the authority of the parents. Now, those of you under the sound of my voice that understand that the next generation is very important, they are very important players in this game of life, in this chess game. They are very important players. They are to be prepared for the spiritual battle. And those of you under the sound of my voice who understand that and know that this is important, listen to me carefully. If you have a child or children, and even if you don't, but you are in a position to where you can enact some powerful, positive change in the life of our young people, by all means, please do that. Do whatever it is you can to put something positive out there for our young people to behold, because they are our next generation. As we were going over a lesson with the children the other day, we noted how the passage says, your father when he is aging, help him. Help your father when he is aging. But how is that possible if your father wasn't in your life, played no part in your upbringing, and even so your mother help her in her aging? But how is that possible if the children live in another country or on another side of your country where you are? And the relationships between parents and children have been severed. We see a lot of that. It's truly amazing to me how we think that this Western way of living and thinking is the proper way. They have taught that you kick them out of the nest at 18. Our forefathers did no such thing. We all dwelled together. Although we had our particular regions, we were all within arm's reach of each other. We had our particular tribes, but even before the tribes separated into their regions, they all remained there with their father, Jacob, our forefather. And we all had a land that belonged to all of us. And within that land, we had our regions. So we were essentially still together, but within our own regions. We had our own parcels, so to speak. But the tribe of Judah decided that they wanted to break away, you see. And that breakaway mentality still remains. That breakaway mentality still remains with the tribe of Judah. No togetherness, no cohesion. We don't even have a visionary plan that is worthwhile. It is still broken into many pieces. We argue about everything. We are divided on every subject. And in all of this, all of the bickering back and forth with the adults that are aging out of position and out of authority, you have these young people that are literally falling by the wayside. Many of them right within your own homes, falling by the wayside. We have failed our young people. But it is time for us to act now and understand that the authority is supposed to remain with you as you also bring them into a position of authority, so that when they have children, we can keep passing the torch, but keeping that line of respect, the generations of respect and honor intact. I don't care if your father is 99 years old, deaf and blind. Honoring him for the position that Yah has given him should remain intact. We are a people that are lost and without honor, without trust, without love for each other, without obedience to our Father, without cohesion among each other. We are spread around the world as lost sheep, trying to get our feet planted into a culture that has rejected us time and time again. Our children watch. They've been sucked into a vortex of confusion. The Western media has presented them with things that are far more exciting than anything you can provide because you allowed them to get engulfed in it. We're talking video games, movies, television shows, music, every form of entertainment you can imagine. And you have to fight for their attention. You are struggling for their attention because you, who are in authority, allowed another authority outside of the authority that the Most High has given you to take hold of your children's minds. And then out of frustration, you give them more and more of the distraction that has caused them to pull away from you in the first place. They whine, you give them a cell phone. They cry, you give them the latest video games. They fuss, you take them to the movies. They throw a fit or a tantrum, and you buy them more gadgets. You are destroying your own lineage. Your own children are being destroyed by the distractions that you buy for them. And as you age out of authority and position, the child or the children that we as a people have prepared to take over, to be the next leaders in our communities, are lifeless zombies who have been fully engrafted into Western culture. And I'm not just talking about those that I just mentioned with the video games and the movies and television and all of that. I'm also talking about those who have been educated by a secular system that is godless. So, you see, it still doesn't matter. You can have a degree in whatever, but the Most High says that the wisdom of this world is foolishness to him. So as you prepare their minds for a secular world and not a spiritual world, you have put yourself above those who may not have sent their children to get a secular education. You believe that you are in a better position, and you may be financially, but spiritually, you are still spiritually dead. Because when you do not prepare your children for the whole 9 yards, the spirituality, the self-sufficiency, and all of those things that come with being servants of the Most High Yah, when you don't prepare them for those things, you haven't prepared them at all. The scripture says, train up your children in the way that they should go. And that is an all-inclusive package. You cannot leave out anything. Now, we do have children that stray away. I remember reading a story in the Apocrypha where it talked about this one man of Yah was so righteous. He was a righteous leader. But it said his sons after him grew up and they became wicked, very, very wicked. And they did not carry on the righteousness of their father. So you do have situations such as that, to where the man of Yah has lived righteously and pleased Abba Yah was pleasing in the sight of Abba Yah, but the children went astray. But that still does not release us from our responsibility. We cannot say, well, they're going to do what they want anyway, so why waste my time? We can't do that. The blood would be on your hands if you do that. The blood will be on their own hands if they go astray. As long as you train them up in the way that they should go, most of them will not depart. But if some do depart, the blood will be on their hands because you did your part. So as this generation that we see right now are aging out of position, what are you doing to prepare the next generation? From my standpoint, I believe in the whole package. I believe in the way Yah established things. I don't believe we should age out of position. I believe that a hierarchy should stay in place. But many parents are relinquishing authority. This is why they are giving their children whatever they want and not giving them the things that they need. A lot of parents handed over their authority a long time ago. They aged out at a very early age because they do not want to be parents. I've witnessed parents who don't want to tell their children no. They allow children to manipulate them into giving them everything they want. I see it happening, and it's very sad because you don't know what you are doing. That child will be useless if you die out. See, right now you are aging out, and you are giving your authority to them. You're not supposed to give your authority to your children. They are supposed to be plugged into the hierarchy, meaning you keep your position of authority, and that child is supposed to be plugged in where they belong. And then when they have children, they plug in where they belong, and so on and so on. But the hierarchy is to remain in place. Remember Judah, even when Judah left and he got himself into a situation, he came back to his father's house for advice on how to handle the situation. But because he had departed from his father's house, his father said, no, you already established yourself. You started to do your own thing. So you deal with what you have created. It was for a reason, because our forefather Jacob was saying to Judah, you did something you were not supposed to do. You divided the tribes. We were supposed to remain together. And I'm speaking about that particular time, family, when Judah decided to depart and go his way. This is why Judah is in the position that he's in today. The tribe of Judah are people that have been scattered to the four corners of the earth. We are so divided naturally and spiritually. We are not on a spiritual one accord at all. We have no love among our people in mass. I'm not saying that all of us are loveless, because that would not be the truth. Many of us do love our people dearly. And this is why we cry aloud and we spare not, and we lift up our voices like trumpets in Zion. This is why we do the things that we do, because we do love our people. But the truth must always be spoken. We have made a grave error as it relates to our young people. And if you don't get it together, if we don't get it together, if we don't take this thing serious, we will see our young people destroyed more and more. They will be a part of the purge that the Most High has spoken of, until the day that he says, I am going to pour out my Ruach HaKodesh on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters will prophesy, see visions, and dream dreams. At the point which the Most High step in, or steps in, that is the point where he said, enough is enough. You have not prepared my young people. And so let me stay right there for a minute. One thing you don't understand is that those children that you all have brought into the world are not your children. I did a message on this some time ago. They are not your children. They are the Most High's children. They were put in your hands. You were given a job. He hired you to do a job, which is to raise them and train them up in the way that they should go, preparing them for the spiritual battles to come. Have you been doing that? Or have you relinquished your authority to them? These children are the children of the Most High Yah. I love the story of Hannah and Shemuel. How Hannah had issues conceiving. And when she did, she made a vow to the Most High. She said, I would give him to him. I would give him to you, Abba Yah. And so, at a very early age, after Samuel was weaned, I believe he was age 2, this child that the Most High gifted her with, she turned over to be used of the Most High Yah. So essentially, she was giving back what he had given her. She wanted the opportunity to be a mother. He gave her that, and then he turned the child over. Then she turned the child over to the Most High. So we have to understand these children are not ours. They are the Most High's, and it is our job to prepare them. We have got to prepare them, and this job is to be taken seriously. So many of us are focusing on ourselves and what it is we need, but our focus needs to be redirected to this next generation, to our young people. We have got to stop sleeping on the job and relinquishing our authority and our position to a generation that has been raised out of bounds and thrown off to the wayside. Children that are thrown off to the wayside are not going to be good leaders without divine intervention. So we do know that the Most High is going to step in at some point. He says, okay, I got to step in. You didn't do your job, so I'm going to step in. But for those of you who listen and understand what I'm saying, if you have a child that you know that the Most High has blessed this child's mind, and this child may have a gift, it is your job to help nurture that gift that is in your child. That is your job, not the public school system, not some university, not some stranger who doesn't even serve our Father. It is your job. And in the case of Samuel, if the Most High has shown someone to you that you believe is supposed to help your child in this gift that you know this child has, then by all means, make it happen. Because the Most High has poured out his blessings and his Ruach upon some of the children. I am witnessing that firsthand, and it is our job to prepare them. But those of you who are aging out of authority and position, that is your own doing. If you feel like you're one of those who is on that path, it's not too late to straighten up and fly right. It is time for us to get ourselves together, reestablish the hierarchy that the Most High had in place, lay aside every weight and sin that doeth so easily beset us. Do not allow distractions to cut off or stop the flow of the Ruach HaKodesh. We are to remain awake as to what is happening in this world. We are to know and see and identify the wickedness of this world, but not allow it to stop the plan and the vision of the Most High Yah. We can see, but we don't need to stop. We need to forge ahead as we're looking at all the fiery darts of the enemy coming from every direction. You have got to put on your spiritual eyes so that you can see and that you can respond while still forging ahead in this battle. Okay, family. I'm going to have to revisit this topic, but right now I'm going to say shalom.